The most dangerous lie isn't told by others. It's the one smart people tell themselves. Most people believe they're logical. They think things through. They always have reasons. Kant warned, intelligence does not protect you from self-deception. It often makes it more sophisticated and harder to detect. This video is not about stupidity. It's about how intelligent people quietly erode their own integrity while feeling completely justified the entire time. To understand this, we need to see what Kant feared most about human reason. Kant did not believe that reason is automatically moral. Reason is powerful, but it is neutral. It can be used to discover truth, or it can be used to defend what we already want to do. This is Kant's warning. The moment reason begins to serve desire, it stops being a moral guide. It becomes a lawyer, not a judge. A judge asks what is right. A lawyer asks how to justify a decision that has already been made. And this is how truth is usually abandoned, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, through explanations, through justifications, through arguments that sound intelligent, reasonable, and harmless. You don't say, "I choose what benefits me." You say, "Given the circumstances, this makes sense." You don't say, "I'm avoiding responsibility." You say, "I'm protecting my freedom." This is the danger Kant saw. Reason becomes dangerous the moment it stops asking what is right and starts asking what is convenient. This is where rationalization enters. Rationalization is not a lack of intelligence. It is intelligence misused. Rationalization means using your mind to excuse behavior, not to examine it. Kant saw this clearly. The smarter you are, the more arguments you can produce, the more perspectives you can invent, the more reasons you can give yourself to feel justified. Intelligence becomes a shield for the ego. An honest person asks a simple question: is this right? A rationalizing person asks a different one: how can this make sense? That question is easier. It is more comfortable, because almost anything can be made to make sense if you are clever enough. You can justify overworking as ambition. You can justify avoidance as independence. You can justify selfishness as self-care. This is why self-deception does not require ignorance. It requires intelligence without honesty. And this is why smart people are especially vulnerable. Smart people almost never describe themselves honestly in moral terms. They do not say, "I'm avoiding responsibility, I'm acting out of fear." They say, "I'm being strategic, I'm protecting my freedom." The behavior is the same, only the story changes. Kant's diagnosis is precise. They confuse justification with morality. Having a reason is not the same as having a right reason. Here is the mechanism. Intelligence generates options. Intelligence produces explanations. But the ego decides which explanation feels safest to believe. Reason becomes a servant, not a guide. This is why intelligence increases the risk. A limited mind has fewer excuses. A sharp mind has endless ones. And once every action can be explained, no action ever has to be confronted. This is the brutal truth. The mind that can argue anything can excuse everything. This shows up clearly in modern life. Self-deception rarely looks dramatic. It looks productive. It looks reasonable. It looks respectable. Let's look at 3 modern examples. First, overworking. The reality is often avoidance, fear of stillness, fear of facing uncertainty, fear of not knowing who you are without output. But the rationalization sounds noble: ambition, discipline, the grind. Kant would say this is not virtue, it is anxiety wearing a uniform. Second, avoiding responsibility. The reality is fear of commitment, fear of being accountable, fear of choosing one life and losing others. But the story sounds enlightened. Freedom, independence, keeping options open. Here, reason is not discovering truth, it is protecting comfort. Third, moral shortcuts. The reality is convenience, doing what is easy, ignoring what is demanding. But the justification feels intelligent. Realism, pragmatism, that is just how the world works. Kant's critique cuts through all of this. If you need a story to feel okay about what you are doing, you already sense a moral conflict. No justification is required for actions you fully respect. Here is the sharp insight. You do not deceive yourself because you lack values. You deceive yourself because you refuse to confront them. So how do you tell the difference between truth and comfort? Kant offers no comfort, only a test. Up to this point, we've explored how easily the human mind bends reality to protect itself. Kant steps in and removes that protection entirely. He does not ask how you feel. He does not ask what you meant. He asks only one thing: can your action survive rational examination? For Kant, morality is not about intention dressed in good emotion. It is about whether your reasoning can stand when stripped of personal advantage. Truth, in his view, is not private. It must work for everyone or it fails. So Kant gives us a test, not a gentle one, a ruthless one. Test question 1. If everyone acted this way, would I accept the world it creates? This question demolishes most excuses instantly. Lying becomes unbearable when universalized. Cheating collapses the moment everyone cheats. Exploitation stops being convenient the second you imagine it as a rule rather than an exception. Kant is asking, are you comfortable living inside the consequences of your logic if you're no longer special? If the answer is no, then your action isn't moral, it's opportunistic. Test question 2. If someone else did this to me, would I call it justified? Here, Kant removes self-centered bias. We forgive ourselves for reasons we would never accept from others. We excuse our own dishonesty as necessary, our own cruelty as provoked, our own selfishness as temporary. But when the same behavior is aimed at us, suddenly clarity returns. Kant's point is simple and brutal. If your justification only works when you are the one benefiting, it is not a moral justification at all. Test question 3. Am I seeking truth or emotional relief? This is the most uncomfortable question of all. Many beliefs feel true, not because they are rational, but because they soothe guilt, fear, or shame. Kant warns us here. Morality cannot be built on emotional anesthesia. Feeling better does not mean being right. In fact, the more desperately an idea protects your self-image, the more suspicious it deserves to be. This is where Kant draws his sharpest line. Truth withstands scrutiny. Rationalization avoids it. Truth invites questions. It survives being challenged. It does not panic when examined. Rationalization, on the other hand, demands acceptance. It asks you not to look too closely. It survives only in dim light. And then comes the line that cuts deepest. Honesty asks to be examined. Self-deception asks to be believed. Kant is not interested in making you feel moral. He is interested in whether your reasoning deserves respect. If your belief cannot survive these tests, then no amount of sincerity can save it. And this brings us to Kant's harshest conclusion, one that leaves no room for excuses, no hiding behind intention, and no escape through emotion. At this point, Kant delivers a warning that feels almost personal. Intelligence is neutral. Character is not. Intelligence does not make you moral. It makes you effective. And without honesty, effectiveness turns inward, slowly, quietly, until it becomes self-destruction. Kant understood something unsettling. The smarter you are, the better you become at justifying what should never be justified. This is his moral warning. Without honesty, intelligence becomes a weapon against yourself. A sharp mind can construct beautiful arguments for ugly actions. It can turn convenience into necessity, selfishness into self-care, betrayal into complex circumstances. Intelligence does not stop wrongdoing, it often refines it. And the cost is not immediate. That's what makes it dangerous. First, integrity fractures. You no longer act from principle, you act from calculation. You begin choosing which values apply this time. The rules don't disappear, they become negotiable. Then, identity fragments. You become one person in private reasoning and another in public explanation. The gap widens, slowly, almost invisibly. But maintaining it requires constant effort, constant internal storytelling. And finally, self-respect erodes. Not because others judge you, but because you know. Even if no one else sees the compromise, the mind that made it remembers. Kant believes this inner witness cannot be silenced forever. This is how moral collapse actually happens. You don't lose your way all at once. You argue yourself there. One exception becomes a pattern. One rationalization becomes a method. One dishonest thought becomes a habit of thought. And the most tragic part, the smarter the person, the more convincing the arguments sound, especially to themselves. Kant is ruthless here. He insists that intelligence without honesty does not elevate a person, it divides them. It turns the mind into a courtroom where the verdict is always predetermined and truth never gets to testify. So the question is no longer whether you are intelligent. The question becomes far more demanding. So what does Kant actually demand from us? Kant's conclusion is uncomfortable because it leaves no place to hide. He doesn't ask you to be more informed. He doesn't ask you to think faster or argue better. Kant doesn't ask you to be smarter. He asks you to be honest, especially when intelligence makes lying easy. This is the final reversal. What we often call wisdom is just intelligence working in our favor. What Kant calls morality is intelligence refusing to protect the ego. That is why self-deception is so dangerous. Not because it is stupid, but because it is persuasive. Not because it lacks logic, but because it abuses it. And this is the final punch. Intelligence without honesty becomes self-sabotage. If this perspective challenged you, if it felt unsettling rather than flattering, that's exactly the point. Subscribe if you want philosophy that confronts self-deception, not content that praises intelligence for its own sake. Because in the end, what destroys people is not ignorance, but the lies they were smart enough to believe.